Hey guys, thanks for joining me for another episode of Learn to Play Games. My name is Lance, and today we're going to take a look at Mythe. This is a game by Ludi Games and is being distributed by Passport Games. It is a 2 to 5 player game, and it takes roughly 20 minutes to a half an hour to play. In the game itself, each player is working against the other players. At the beginning of your turn, you will draw cards from other players, trying to get movement cards to move your mouse around the board. At the end of the game, the player that is able to play a legendary item and get enough movement points to move onto the dragon's space will slay the dragon and claim the sacred cheese. So my impressions of this game, I really enjoyed it. It is a lot of fun. My wife actually found this one at Gen Con this year and brought me over and showed me it. I think it's a great family game, as each card has little story elements on it that you can use to tell a story or help bring the game to life for kids. And the board itself is very cute. It's like a little pop-up book, and everything is three-dimensional, so it kind of really pops up at you. So I think kids are really going to enjoy this game. And even older, more game-savvy people like myself and some of my friends in that have had a lot of fun with it. There's just a lot of blind luck with it. When you're drawing cards, you never know if you're going to draw that obstacle card. And there's a push your luck element, as you know, depending upon what cards you pull. Do you go for that one more movement card to move an additional space, or do you stop and take your movement as it is? So we've had a really good time with it. I didn't see a lot of drawbacks. I mean, there isn't a lot of depth to it, so I mean, I guess you could run out of replayability with it after so long. But the game moves so fast that even if you kind of get a little tired of it, it moves so quickly that you'll be done before you know it. So let's head to the table and I'll teach you how to play. So the first thing we're going to look at are the cards. There's 16 cards included in the game, and the cards you're going to have on the top corners their movement value that's going to range from 0 to 3. As you can see, there's different denotions of each card. Each card has its own unique art, and at the bottom of each card has a little bit of text on it. That does not have any impact on the game, but it just kind of gives you a little bit of extra on the card, or if you're playing with kids, you can read those out to them. There are also 4 skull cards included in the game, and these are the obstacles that will stop players, which we're going to get to during the player turns. Now, depending upon the number of players that are playing, some of these cards will be removed. So if we look at one of the player references, it's going to show us exactly the breakdown that we need. So for 2 to 3 players, this is the cards we'll have. For 4 players, these cards, and for 5 players, we'll use all 16. On top of this, some of the cards are also going to list in the corner a little mouse with a number on it, and that will also help to create the deck. So we're going to play a 3-player game, so we'll remove all the cards that list a 5 and a 4 on it. Once we're done with that, then we can go ahead and shuffle those cards up. And hand them to the starting player. At the beginning of the game, each player will choose a color that they'd like to represent them. So they'll receive the mouse and the player aid, which has the card breakdown on it, as well as the phases of the player's turn and how to do them. Once the players have made their selection, so we're going to go ahead and play with a 3-player game, and we're going to go ahead and use green, blue, and black. The rest of the mice and cards will be returned to the box. We won't need them for this game. And then from here you can go ahead and choose a starting player. So we'll go ahead and say that the black player will be the starting player. So at this point he deals out cards equally to each player until he runs out of cards. Each player is allowed to look at their cards in their hands, but they're not allowed to share them with the other players. Board setup is very easy. You place the board in the center of the table, and then each player can go ahead and place their mouse in the starting village. So a couple of features on the board. So there are different spaces that will have different pips on the top, and that is the number of points of movement that you must have to move into that space. Only one mouse can take up a space. So if a player is here and a player tries to move past him, he simply passes over his space and moves straight into the next space. So for example, let's go ahead and say that green was here. The blue player would only need 2 points to move into this space, one point for that one and 1 point for this one. Other than that, then you can go ahead and place out the sacred cheese in the very back corner and the dragon icon on the dragon space. Each player's turn consists of 2 phases, the draw phase and the give card phase. So starting with the player that's the first player, so our black player is our starting player, he's going to go ahead and start his turn by drawing a card from one of the other 2 players. He's not allowed to draw cards from his own hand. So let's go ahead and draw from blue, and we're going to go ahead and take this card here. When we take a card, we flip it over and reveal it to all players and play it face up on the table. So we draw the legendary sword, and this card gives us 3 movement points that we can use. From here we have an option. We can either stop and use the 3 points to move onto the board, or we can continue drawing. And this will continue until either all the other players have run out of cards, or we draw an obstacle card, or we choose to quit. So let's go ahead and press our luck and go ahead and draw from the green player. We drew a card that has a 1, so now we have a total of 4 movement points. And I think that's pretty good for the black player, so he's going to go ahead and use his points to move. So he has 1 blip there, so that's 1 point, 2, 3, 4. Now he must use all the points that he has. He cannot stop and choose not to move his full 4. If he has any extra points, so let's go ahead and say that he drew another 1 and had 5 points, he could not move onto this square. He must have enough movement to cover all the blips on the squares. But if he had 5 points, then that last point would be wasted, as he can't use it for anything else. Now that the black player has concluded his movement, we're ready to move into the second part of his turn, which is the give cards phase. So at this point, he's going to go ahead and grab the cards that he drew from the other players and add them to his hands. After that, then he has a choice. He can either keep those cards in his hands and end his turn, or he can choose to deal out any cards that he wants to the other players. The one rule is that every player has to have at least 1 card in their hand at the end of the turn. So as all players have met that, he can choose to either keep those cards or he can choose to give out cards. So he's going to go ahead and give a card to the blue player, and he's going to hold on to the rest of the cards. But so the other players don't know the order, he's going to go ahead and mix them back up so that nobody knows what he has. From here, then play would proceed to the next player in clockwise order. Okay, so now it's the green player's turn, and so he's going to go ahead and start with his draw phase. So he's going to go ahead and draw 1 from black. And he also found the legendary sword. So he has 3 points, which is only going to get him here, and he feels like he can still manage to get a little bit farther. So he's going to go ahead and draw another card, and he's going to go ahead and take another one from black. And he found a 1. That's not enough to get him here, so he's going to need to draw at least 1 more card. So he's going to try his luck on the blue player. And he found a 0, so that's not going to help him. So let's go back, and he's going to draw from black again, and he found another 0. Still not enough to get there, so he needs to draw more cards. So he's going to go ahead and take another one from blue. And he found an obstacle card. So at this point, his turn ends, and he's not allowed to use any of the movement points that he's accumulated. He moves right into the give cards phase. So he's going to go ahead and take all these cards into his hand and choose to give out any of them that he'd like. So he's going to go ahead and give out 2 to blue. And of course, as a player, he would know what he's giving out. He wouldn't do it at random like I'm doing it here. You're allowed to choose whichever cards you want to keep in that, and you'll always know what cards you have in your hand. So then from there, then we're going to proceed to the blue player's turn. So blue is going to go ahead and take a card from black. And right away he drew an obstacle card. So his turn would end for the draw phase. He would add the card to his hand and choose to give out any cards that he wants. and he's going to choose to hold on to his cards. In order to win a game, the hero must defeat the evil red dragon and recover the sacred cheese. In order to do this, they must enter the dragon's space armed with one of the legendary items. At the start of your turn, you may reveal one of the legendary items from your hand and declare that you are going to attempt to defeat the dragon this turn. Proceed to take a normal turn. The points on the legendary item you revealed do not count for your movement points. So let's go ahead and say that our green player's turn is about to start. He sees that the other two players are in front of him, so all he would need to do is draw one movement card in order to win. So he's going to go ahead and reveal that he has a legendary item. And then he would proceed with his turn as normal. So he feels lucky, and he's going to go after the black player and draw a card from him. Oh, look at that. He reveals a 1, so that is enough movement to move onto the dragon's space because he bypasses the other two players. And with the use of the legendary item, defeats the dragon and claims the sacred cheese. At this point, he has won the game. Now, there are a couple things to note. If you do not reveal a legendary item during your turn, you are not allowed to move onto the dragon's space, even if you draw enough cards or movement points to get you there. So, for example, if the green player did not have a legendary item during his turn, he would simply take a turn as normal and not use any of the movement points as he could not pass the other players. At this point, he is hoping to draw a legendary item to add to his hand, to hopefully hold on to for his next turn in the future. Alright, well that concludes this video. I hope you guys found it helpful. As always, please leave any comments or questions in the comment section below. And as always, thank you for watching my videos, and I will see you guys next time.